The woman could never have imagined it. Her most hated husband had tried to save her, and died in the car accident on the day of the divorce. At the brink of death, her husband lay in a pool of blood, and said, in broken breaths, "If there is a next life, I hope I never meet you again in this life." Covered in blood, I was held in Ruyan's arms. She cried until her heart was torn apart. At that moment, she hated herself to the core. She truly loved her husband. If it had not been for her damn pride, how could things have come to divorce? How could they have ended up like this? After the first died, Ruyan stayed depressed and heartbroken. Years later, she took a large overdose of sleeping pills in her room. She smiled, closed her eyes, and murmured, "Husband, I am coming to you to atone." When she opened her eyes again, Ruyan found herself lying in the marital bedroom. She looked at herself in the mirror. She could not help touching her face. Her skin felt real and delicate. Her wrists were as smooth as jade, with no trace of any wrist-cutting wound. Her phone on the table received a text, and the screen lit up. Ruyan picked it up to check. The date displayed was actually May 11th. My heart lurched. That was impossible. All the signs pointed to one fact. Ruyan had been reborn. What about him? Ruyan was like a drowning person searching for a lifeline, thinking she might see me again, that she might have a chance to make it up to me. Tears shimmered in her bright eyes. Ruyan hurried out of the room in a panic. She looked nothing like her usual high and mighty female CEO self. Actually, Ruyan did love me. When her mother was gravely ill, I used my startup capital to pay for her mother's treatment. That left her in the weaker position. She owed me complete obedience and endless care. Once the company was on the right track and my career took off, while I was struggling, Ruyan wanted to become the dominant one in the relationship. Little did she know that this mentality created contradiction after contradiction, leaving husband and wife at odds, arguing and sleeping in separate rooms, step by step until today. Between us, a wall of the heart had been built that could not be crossed. In my previous life, standing outside the Civil Affairs Bureau, Ruyan had already regretted everything completely. But before I could speak, the two of us were swept into a murder driven by love and jealousy. The cheating husband tricked his wife into a fake divorce, planning to register his marriage with his mistress. The legal wife suddenly drove straight at that despicable cheating husband and his lover, and we, not far away, were caught in it too. In that moment of danger, I instinctively pushed her away. Ruyan fell to the ground. When she got back up, what met her eyes was a hellish sight. I was already lying in a pool of blood. Ever since she lost me that day, everything seemed to lose its meaning. The person who had once been willing to give everything for her was gone. She hated herself to the core. If not for what she had done, how could things have come to this? Ruyan made her way to the living room. There, the person she had been thinking about day and night was sitting on the sofa. A few steps away, she looked straight at the man before her. Joy at their reunion and regret from her previous life surged in her heart. But my words dragged Ruyan back to cruel reality. Let's divorce. Look at the agreement. If everything is fine, sign it. Tomorrow we'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Ruyan felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave. Even though heaven had given her a second chance, the relationship between her and her husband was still hanging by a thread. It could collapse at any moment. If she could not save it, this life was doomed to repeat the same mistakes. Even if they escaped that car accident, she and I would end up as strangers. The man she loved would become another woman's husband, and that love would belong to someone else. Husband, can we not get divorced? Ruyan said through tears. I had not heard that way of addressing me in a long time. It even felt strangely unfamiliar. I looked up and met Ruyan's eyes. Back in college, she was stunning enough to take your breath away. She was a famed beauty. Now she was even more beautiful beyond all words. Like the moon in the sky, she was someone people could only look up to. I was already exhausted, body and soul. I could no longer feel the flutter I once had. Let's let each other go. The sooner this marriage ends, the better for both of us. It would be better for both of us. Ruyan, you've changed. And I lost myself in this marriage too. The vows we once swore have become a cold prison. We sleep in separate rooms. I wanted to have a child, but you kept putting it off. You clearly promised me all of this before we got married. I let out a long sigh. There was no point dredging up the past. You're being so cold. Is this just because you want a divorce? Fine, I'll agree to it. Let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow, sign it. Ruyan felt as if those words were blades, cutting at her heart again and again. I'm sorry, husband. I failed to do my duty as a wife. Please give me one more chance. I swear. You'll spend the rest of my life loving you properly and making up for my mistakes, Ruyan said, her eyes turning red. Tears swirled in her eyes. My wife was usually as cold as ice. Now that I had brought up divorce, she was crying. Did she really care? Or did she only know how to cherish something after losing it? Or was she afraid I was after her company? Thinking back on these suffocating years, my resolve never wavered. Whether you sign or not, this divorce is happening. For the sake of what we once had, let's part on good terms. I placed the agreement on the coffee table. Then I went back to the second bedroom alone. Ruyan was left alone in the living room. She kept replaying every word her husband had said. Her heart twisted in waves of pain. She had been the one to break his heart. No matter what it cost, she had to win my forgiveness. She never wanted to go through the agony of losing me again. In the bathroom, warm water washed over me. Tonight's confrontation had gone far beyond what I expected. If it had been my wife from when we had just gotten married, I would have believed her solemn promise that she loved me. But as the company grew and grew, the gap between us only widened. She was no longer as gentle as she had once been. All kinds of conflicts and cold wars kept breaking out. What had once been a happy life had fallen into chaos. Was there still love between the two of us? I held out my hand and watched water stream across my palm. After my shower, I opened my laptop and finished handling some trivial matters. Then I got ready for bed. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Ruyan's heart was full of bitterness. Once love turns into a game of strategy, there are no winners. In the end, she and her husband had ended up sleeping in separate rooms, to the point where they had to knock just to enter each other's room. Apart from having a marriage certificate, how was this any different from roommates living together outside? I opened the door. My wife was wearing an elegant white nightgown, and her aloof aura seemed much softer. What is it? Husband, come back to the master bedroom and sleep. I've already made the bed. Her cool voice carried a hint of tenderness. If I remember correctly, you were the one who said we should sleep in separate rooms. I stated the facts. We've been sleeping apart for so long. I'm already used to sleeping alone. You should think over what I said tonight. The door closed, and the conversation ended. Ruyan knew it would not be easy to warm him up again. The heart she had broken so badly. Still, she could not help feeling lost. When they had just gotten married, the two of them had cuddled sweetly on their wedding bed, and those mornings when neither of them wanted to get up had already become a luxury. She returned to the master bedroom, and its emptiness only made her feel lonelier. On the nightstand, there was still a wedding photo framed for display. Ruyan picked it up and studied it carefully, unable to stop herself from tracing her husband's face with her fingertips. The good times of the past kept surfacing in her mind. Husband, I miss you. All night long, Ruyan kept thinking about how to win me back. After all, she did not have much time left. Only at dawn did she finally give in and fall asleep. The next day, when I went to the living room, Ruyan was nowhere to be seen. It was empty. The house had long stopped feeling like a home. I grabbed my car keys and headed straight to the company. Sunlight poured into the room at 9 o'clock, waking Ruyan from her deep sleep in bed. She had wanted, as always, to make her husband breakfast by hand and tie his tie for him. But the chance was already gone. Soon, she found a way to make up for it. I walked into my office. Good morning, boss. A bright, crisp voice rang out. It was Chen, the assistant hired when the company was first founded. Standing in front of me, Chen had followed me for so long that she could tell at once I was in a bad mood. She quickly brewed me a cup of tea and handed it over. Product sales had been rising steadily lately. So, what was there still to worry about? While I was drinking the tea, Chen quietly let her gaze rest on my face. Before quietly pulling it back, I set down the teacup and immediately got back to work. The company had been swamped with work lately, so busy I had not even had time for lunch. It's time to eat. Your health is your greatest asset, Chen said as she spoke, setting out the dishes which looked and smelled delicious. Have you eaten? Of course, otherwise, how would I have the strength to serve you? The moment she said that, a poised, aloof figure walked into the office. Ruyan had clearly come straight from the company. She was dressed in business attire, carrying the authority of someone at the top. She was the picture-perfect Ice Queen female CEO. In her hand she carried a delicate lunchbox. Her purpose here was obvious. In an instant, the office fell silent. I had not expected Ruyan to come. Ruyan looked at Chen setting out the meal for me, and an unpleasant feeling rose in her heart, as if her place had been taken. On top of that, those rather suggestive words, and a sense of crisis surged up at once. I said to Chen, You should head back and rest for now. Chen never would have imagined that she would get caught just for making a casual complaint, only to be seen by the boss wife. Now there was no way she could clear her name. They probably won't end up arguing over this, will they? Only the two of them were left in the office. Ruyan was silent for a moment. Then she said softly, "Husband, I brought you lunch. Take a look and see if it suits your taste," she said, and the authority around her seemed to melt away. The female CEO became a considerate wife. She opened the exquisite wooden lunchbox layer by layer, and inside were all the dishes I liked. Seeing her husband stand up from his office chair, as if he was about to come eat, she could not help feeling a rush of joy. But that feeling of joy quickly turned to disappointment. 2 lunches were placed on the desk. One chose the other one, then asked calmly, "Why do you suddenly not want a divorce anymore? Are you worried about how the assets will be split? If that's the reason, then rest easy. I can support myself. I would never set my sights on your money. Husband, I've never once thought about separating from you. Is that so?" There was not a trace of trust in those 2 words. If 24-year-old Ruyan had said that to me, back when we had only just gotten married, I would have known she still loved me. I remembered clearly that the problems in our marriage had started because of the gap between money and status. But now, my wife had changed from her usual cold indifference, as if she had gone back to the days of first love. It was not because of money. So, what else could it be because of? Ruyan had wanted to argue back, but realized she had no defense. In the conflicts and arguments from before, she really had mixed in some selfish motives. She had wanted me to give in to her, and that was what led to things ending up like this today. Husband, believe me or not, I never once thought about divorcing you. All these years, you've been the only one in my heart. I hope you can let go of your resentment right away. After all, you've been wrong so many times over the years. If you have any demands or want any compensation, you can bring anything up. As long as it is something I can do, I won't refuse it. Faced with his wife's soft, gentle words, I remain unmoved. I did not even give her the most basic chance. I kept eating my lunch. She remembered the sweet days when they had first gotten married. There had never been an awkward silence at the dinner table. You and I would share everything that happened during the day, one story after another, and never feel bored. But now, feeling like strangers was like salt being poured into a wound, sending wave after wave of searing pain through her. What had once been harmony and sweetness had turned into 2 people who had nothing left to say. Ruyan knew very well that words were nothing more than a way to show your attitude. If she wanted to win back the man beside her, she would have to back it up with action. Seeing that I had finished lunch, she had no choice but to take her leave. After all, staying any longer would only make her husband more unhappy with her. She thought to herself, why not wait until she got home tonight and start over slowly? Husband, don't work yourself too hard. When it is time to rest, you need to rest well. Your health is what matters most. You do not need to worry about money. I'm here at home. She looked at the ledger with reluctance, then slowly left. I let her words go in one ear and out the other. If I had been the one spending my wife's money, then I could only silently endure her cold treatment. I would have no right or courage to ask for a divorce. Financial independence brings personal independence, one of the most basic traits a person can have. Last night, I had casually brought up divorce without a second thought. Actually, I was never the kind of man who valued money above everything else. If I had truly cared that much about money back then, I could have easily chosen to break up with Ruyan, then taken my first pot of money and started a business, instead of spending that money on her mother. The female driver asked carefully, CEO, are you heading back to the company? Ruyan stood by the window of the shopping center, gazing out at the street. Today was a special day. Their wedding anniversary. She decided to pick out some gifts herself. The luxury car slowly pulled out, heading straight for the most bustling shopping center in Jinling City, and drove off. Ruyan personally picked out clothes for me from head to toe. A tie, leather shoes, a luxury watch, and even a luxury car. The sales staff silently envied the man who was not even there. He actually had such a goddess-like wife. That was already hard enough to accept. But what was even more unbelievable was how thoughtful she was. For example, when buying sports cars, she bought 2 at once. Just because the newest model had to be pre-ordered, she bought an in-stock model to drive first. Just listen to that. Does that even sound human? Ruyan spending money on me made me happier than spending it on herself. The phone rang, but it was not the call she had been hoping for. Ruyan, are you free lately? My resort business is getting some attention. Want to come experience it with me? A voice so lovely it was almost intoxicating came through the phone, stirring the heart. It was Ruyan calling her. They had worked together before, and got along well, so their relationship was pretty good. Right now, Ruyan only wanted to stay by her husband's side. A trip to the resort would take at least 2 or 3 days. She did not want to leave, and was unwilling to leave. Sorry, I have something very important to do during this time, so I won't go. Have fun without me. Is the company running into trouble? Ruyan suddenly realized that perhaps those alluring, glamorous women knew better how to capture a man's heart. She turned to Ruyan and asked, "Tell me, what should I do to win back a man's heart?" She thought to herself, a woman like Ruyan, so noble and seductive, with such effortless grace, would certainly attract countless suitors, and she understood men's thoughts far better. In truth, Ruyan was devoted to only one person, and kept all those suitors at arm's length. She was more innocent in love than anyone else. Going from company matters straight to relationship problems was quite a leap, but that did not stop Ruyan from smiling charmingly on the other end of the line. Relationship gossip is irresistible, isn't it? Ruyan had not expected Ruyan to have this kind of trouble either. Logically speaking, with a wife as stunning as that, her husband should have doted on her in every possible way. Could it be because she was too cold? No wonder she was a female CEO. Her mind was sharp. She found the problem almost immediately. Ruyan began using her own meager experience to help Ruyan make sense of it. She said, "Are you usually too cold and distant? Did that leave your partner disappointed with this marriage? What pride or dignity is there to worry about between husband and wife? We are each other's closest people in this world. Lower your pride. Fulfill the duties a wife should fulfill. Maybe once he feels your tenderness, his heart will slowly soften and stop wanting to leave." Ruyan's words jolted Ruyan awake. In this critical time, she needed to use extraordinary measures, like last night, when her husband refused to come back to the master bedroom to sleep. She had boxed herself into a one-sided way of thinking. As the saying goes, if the mountain will not come to me, then I will go to the mountain. If he would not return to the master bedroom, then she could sleep in the guest room too. If she needed to get him out, she could wait until her husband fell asleep, then quietly open the door with the spare key. Sometimes, respecting someone too much only means you can never get close to them. Besides, they were not divorced yet. Wasn't it only natural for husband and wife to share a bed? I understand now. Ruyan thought back to her own experience handling relationship conflicts. She couldn't help but relax. She remembered that when she once argued with someone she liked, as long as she softened a little, said a few sweet words to soothe them, and bought some pastries she liked, things would usually calm down. Ruyan knew in her heart that this trick only worked on someone who still loved you. Don't worry too much, Ruyan. If you take the initiative a little, your partner can't possibly remain unmoved. Making up is only a matter of time. Even loving couples argue sometimes. What matters is your attitude and method when dealing with conflict. After hearing Ruyan's words, Ruyan felt as if she had been given a powerful shot of courage. The doubts in her heart immediately eased a great deal. Ruyan then shifted her attention from romance back to business. As a reborn female CEO, she had some knowledge of what would happen in the future. She understood that some opportunities were not something she could keep to herself. Ruyan needed to find a partner to plan this out with. The two female CEOs talked for about half an hour before ending the call. She glanced at her delicate watch. In the afternoon, it was 2 p.m., and there were still, for hours before she could see her, in the villa nestled among the mountains and water, a noble, alluring woman put down her phone and looked straight out the window. What Ruyan had revealed was practically a bombshell. Emotionally and logically, she had no reason not to cooperate. Yet Ruyan could not bring herself to be happy. Having a chance to win back the person she loved was truly a luxurious kind of trouble. She did not know whether that person hated her or had long since forgotten her. Ruyan was afraid of being hated by that person and also afraid of being forgotten by that person. Either way, it was punishment for her. But she herself felt that whatever the other person did was right. After all, she had broken their promise and abandoned her. At that moment, Ruyan was like a fallen blossom in the wind, beautiful and lonely. In the office, a beautiful, lively figure walked in anxiously. "Boss, did you and your wife have a fight?" she asked, lacking confidence. She had been venting, only to be caught red-handed by the man's wife. "What do you mean? Not full enough? Where would you get the strength to serve? Just listen to that. How exactly are you supposed to serve him? Chen really did have feelings for me, but there was an unbridgeable gulf between boss and subordinate. The wedding ring on my hand was like an impenetrable barrier, always reminding Chen that this handsome man could only be admired from afar, never touched. She should not do anything she ought not to do. Being able to stay beside the person she liked every day and still get paid. And, most importantly, he did not put on pressure like some bosses did. Chen. What else are you not satisfied with? A person has to learn to be content. Put your extra thoughts into work. If assistants had rankings too, Ben Youth was the best asset. With her here, she could help take a lot of the pressure off me. As I was looking over another proposal from an employee, I used to think arguing was a big problem. But the real problem was that they did not even want to argue anymore. Chen saw that her boss still showed no expression and simply went on working as usual. It was not the kind of situation where a wife hears something easy to misunderstand and keeps pressing until the truth comes out. Then the husband, to avoid trouble, has no choice but to fire her. Chen looked bizarrely uneasy, on edge, afraid that the next second I would treat her to a meal. The meal would be the classic "you're fired" treatment. After all these years of struggle, I naturally knew what Chen was worrying about. I put down the proposal in my hand and said, "Work hard. Don't overthink pointless things." Chen mood was like riding a roller coaster, soaring one moment, plunging the next. Unexpectedly, the matter passed quietly like that. As the sun set behind the hills, the work on my desk was finished. No overtime tonight. I drove home. I turned on the music player in the parking spot and listened to a few old songs before getting out. Maybe because our marriage had begun to crack, the car gradually became my second home. Stepping through the door, what met my eyes was a scene completely different from before. A full spread of dishes was neatly arranged on the dining table. The faint fragrance of the food seemed to carry the warmth of home, enough to stir the heart of anyone returning home. Ruyan waited quietly for my return. That chilly air slowly faded, replaced by a gentle charm, as moving as a wedding night. "Husband, you've had a hard day. Come eat." She walked over gracefully and reached out to help me take off my suit jacket. Unfortunately, compared with habits built up over time, she was still too slow. I slipped it off in one motion. It only took a few seconds. The last time my wife helped me get dressed and tied my tie was when? I had already forgotten. Ruyan had not found a way to solve the problem, but she did not feel discouraged. Ever since the couple started sleeping in separate rooms, mealtime had become the only time they could meet. A husband and wife sleeping in different rooms naturally spoke less, and growing distant was only natural. I clearly remember today was our wedding anniversary, but now our feelings had become this bad. There was truly nothing worth commemorating anymore. Ruyan remembered it too. She did not dare bring it up. If this marriage had turned into what it was today, then she was absolutely the culprit. For the words "wedding anniversary" to come out of her mouth felt like a cruel joke. I focused all my attention on the fragrant dishes. The nanny's cooking was getting better and better. What female CEO ever had skills like that? And she did not need to. So I ate with absolutely no guilt, seeing that her husband had no desire to talk to her. A trace of gloom flashed through her bright eyes. "What you sow is what you reap." This result was far too bitter. "Husband, I bought you some gifts. Come see if you like them," she said softly. The sports car key was placed on the table. Its unique emblem made it stand out. There was also an expensive watch in a delicate box. Under the light, the dial shimmered with a dazzling glow. They were both very expensive. I only glanced at them, before shifting my gaze back to the food. I have my own car, and I have a watch too. Though neither is high-end, they're good enough for everyday use. About the divorce, how have you decided? Hearing that indifferent tone, her heart hurt as if it had been pierced by needles. She chose not to answer. She deliberately ignored the topic. After all, how could a wife spending money on her husband count as waste? What's mine is yours. Didn't you spend all your savings on me back then? If you don't like this watch and this brand of sports car, then we can just buy others. I set down my chopsticks and said, "So, you still remember what happened before? Sometimes I even wonder if you forgot." Ruyan was left speechless. The atmosphere dropped to freezing. Just then, a calm ringtone sounded. It felt like a brief chance to catch her breath. I saw it was my mother calling. My mood eased at once. I let out a long breath and calmed down. "Mom, have you had dinner? Your dad and I are taking a walk in the park. With the changing seasons, you have to pay extra attention to your health." How could I not understand my mother? She called for one reason. She was almost certainly calling to urge me to have a child. As for the divorce, I had already discussed it with your father. My mother was in poor health, with asthma, and she was also very sensitive. The only thing I did not tell her was that I was getting divorced. I was afraid she would be unable to help once she found out. She might even worry herself sleepless at night and never have peace. Better for her to know one day later if possible. After hearing the situation, she smoked the cigarettes, then said, "If you are unhappy, then divorce. My son is already grown now. She can decide many things for herself, since the other side had the upper hand, and look down on her own son. Why cling on and suffer like this? When people live, isn't it just about proving a point?" My parents were still struggling and completely in the dark, and before they had even talked for decences, they were already back on the topic of grandchildren. "Any news from Xiaoyu's belly yet? In a few more years, you'll both be 30. It's time to have a child. Mom, don't worry so much. Just enjoy your easy life. We are both swamped." I made up an excuse on the spot. It looked pretty convincing, but in reality, it was no sturdier than paper. One poke, and it would tear. Ruyan listened quietly to the conversation between mother and son. In the quiet surroundings, she could faintly make out some of it. Fengnian's words seemed endless. I gradually lost my patience. I handed the phone to her. "Mom, she's in the shower. It is not convenient for her to take the call right now." Hearing that, Ruyan was filled with disappointment. It was as if she had already lost her rights as a wife. But I didn't think I'd done anything wrong. Rights and duties are meant to go hand in hand. I was the one who brought up having a child in the first place. But Ruyan refused. Before we got married, we had clearly agreed on it. If she had agreed, that child would already be calling us dad and mom. The two of them might never have ended up at divorce. Besides, this was obviously a call urging them to have a child. She did not want a child. To me, this was not depriving Ruyan of her rights. It was solving a problem for her. In the end, with my father's intervention, the call finally came to an end. What did Mom say? After I finished dinner, I got up and took my leave. The sports car key and the expensive watch were left on the table. Ruyan was left alone. Half an hour later, Ruyan's phone rang. She had no appetite for the meal. Fengnian called right on time, too. "How have you been feeling lately? Xiaoyu, when are you and my son planning to have a child? It is not that Mom wants to meddle, but it is not good to have a child too late. You are already 27. If you wait a few more years, the risks of pregnancy and childbirth will be much higher." "Mom, you are right. I'll talk it over with my husband later." Hearing her daughter-in-law say that, Fengnian finally relaxed. She chatted casually for a few more sentences, then hung up the phone, so as not to disturb the couple. In Ruyan's eyes, her mother-in-law had always been understanding. She never interfered in the new family's affairs. This was also the first time she had received a call urging her to have a child. Indeed, it was time for her and her husband to have a child. The idea was beautiful, but putting it into practice was full of difficulties. She got her clothes ready, then slowly stepped into the bathroom. Steam filled the air. That lush, alluring beauty was softly veiled. The figure reflected in the mirror was still elegant and graceful. She was breathtakingly beautiful. Ruyan could not help thinking of Chen, whom she had seen in the office. Although her looks and figure could not compare to hers, there was a lively, spirited air about her. That kind of woman was rare. When you are exhausted after a long day, you look up, and there she is, right in front of you. Talking with her for a while would make things feel much easier. Ruyan's sense of crisis shot up at once. If it had been before, she would naturally not have feared such a potential threat. But now, her husband's heart was no longer with her. It was nothing like their newlywed days, when they had been inseparable every day. They had been deeply in love, no matter how beautiful she was. If there was no love, it was all pointless, and her instincts told her that assistant's intentions were far from pure. She likely had some affection for her husband, for those who had once lost and then regained something precious. Their possessiveness would be like a mirror magnified endlessly, reflecting every tiny detail with startling clarity. In their eyes, not even the smallest flaw or surprise could be tolerated. A plan quietly took shape in her mind. She wanted Chen to quit. After I came back from my evening run, I showered as usual, then turned on my computer, completely unaware that my mother had already gone behind my back, and called Ruyan to explain a few things. Even though I was married, I lived like a single man. The class group chat, silent for a long time, suddenly had someone suggesting a reunion. I skimmed the messages and did not say a word. I quietly left the chat. After reading the trending news for a while, I got sleepy, turned off the lights, and went to bed. Half dazed, I heard the doorknob turn. A faint set of footsteps came in. The night light was too dim to make out who it was. It only made that graceful, perfect silhouette look even more hazy. Ruyan, using the weak glow of the night light, could vaguely see her husband's back. She slowly came over, got into bed, and wrapped her arms around me from behind. A wave of relief rose in me. The moment her hands loosened, I, drowsy a second ago, woke right up. Soft and warm. Warm, soft curves pressed against me. It felt softer than a cloud. I knew it was Ruyan. I thought her cold nature would make her leave if I ignored her. I did not expect her to be this proactive. Was this really the Ruyan who now held wealth and status in her hands? If my husband did not want to sleep in the master bedroom, then I would sleep in the second bedroom with you. Ruyan wanted to say a little more, but the jade-like arm around my waist was gently moved away, leaving her arms suddenly empty. If you are not sleeping in the master bedroom, I am going to the other room. Do not follow me. Thanks to you, I have long gotten used to sleeping alone. With you here, I cannot sleep. I am getting up. Soon, Ruyan was the only one left in the room. She felt a little wistful. 3 feet of ice does not form in a single day. Wanting to win her husband's heart back so easily was far too optimistic. Even that had been part of her plan. Even so, hearing his rejection brought a wave of disappointment crashing over her. Ruyan could not help but think back to when she had insisted on sleeping in separate rooms. Her husband probably hurt even more. This was her punishment, and she deserved it. Sorry. Ruyan pulled the blanket, still carrying my scent, into her arms. Thinking back to that brief embrace just now, she felt like the stupidest woman in the world. She had personally torn a good marriage apart, and deeply wounded her husband's heart. Why force the person who loves you to be the one who bends? Sometimes, winning at love means losing altogether. The blanket in her arms was soft enough, but it was still not the man she loved, and it could not fill the emptiness in her heart. When she had just hugged me from behind, Ruyan had already regretted it deeply. She had chosen to sleep apart, pushing away happiness that had been within easy reach, only to shove it away with her own hands. I fought back the ache in my chest, not daring to think too deeply about it. The more she thought about it, the worse it felt. The more she thought, the less willing she was to accept it. Every thought ended in regret. Ruyan still had another move, but not tonight. Her husband's patience was already close to its limit. She could only delay for now. Clinging to the faint trace of my scent, the sleepless Ruyan slowly drifted off. I had that nightmare again. She was still there, and I still could not escape fate's design. I collapsed into a pool of blood. Although I had left my phone in the second bedroom, my body clock still woke me right on time. After washing up, I went back to the second bedroom. Ruyan, already dressed in formal clothes, had woken even earlier than I had. Her glossy black hair spilled over her shoulders. Morning light spilled through the window onto her. She looked beautiful, like something out of a dream. I could not help being struck by how stunning she was. It was as if last night's unpleasantness had never happened. Husband, did you sleep well last night? I have already changed clothes. Are you ready? A suit lay quietly by the bed, but I acted as if I did not see it. If I wanted something done, I would do it myself. I was already thinking about tonight's dinner. A few new clothes had been added to the wardrobe, but I still habitually picked out the outfits I wore most often. Ruyan watched me, not even bothering to say a word. As for asking her to tie my tie, that was out of the question. I thought to myself, this woman was getting colder and colder. In the beginning of our marriage, she would tie my tie every morning, and I would answer with a kiss. Sometimes we were even late for work because of it. Back then, my heart was sweet as honey. Ruyan got busier and busier. After the company got on the right track, the gap in our wealth and status kept widening. She was no longer as gentle and considerate as before. She had grown cold. She wanted to control this marriage in every way. I felt a little uneasy about it. Now she wanted to exercise a wife's rights, but her husband was ignoring her completely. A wave of frustration rose in her chest. I was fully dressed, handsome and polished, radiating the allure of a mature man. Husband, if you think I only do not want a divorce because of money, I'll transfer all my company shares to you right now. I understood exactly how much wealth that business represented, but I still calmly adjusted my cuffs. Those things have nothing to do with me. If you really it, then sign the divorce agreement from last time. Ruyan would never agree to it. After breakfast, I drove away. Good morning, boss. Chen was always so lively. Make me a cup of tea, I said. Having dodged disaster, she threw herself into work even harder, unaware the real trouble was still ahead. When work ended that evening, a luxury sedan slowly pulled up beside her. When the window rolled down, Chen knew she was done for. Inside the cafe, Ruyan sat down across from her. On the surface, she showed no emotion as she sized the other woman up. She quietly tried to reassure herself that even if she liked the boss, it seemed she had not done anything inappropriate. There was no need to be afraid. Liking someone was not a crime. After a long silence, Ruyan asked, "You want to change jobs?" Chen listened to this unbelievably beautiful woman and heard the terms she offered. The company she mentioned was well known, and the pay for the management position was even more generous. A woman going to work for a cosmetics group was like a man going to work for a game company. Chen was tempted, but only for a moment. "Sorry, I do not have any plans to change jobs for now, and I am not capable of taking on that position. Thank you for your kindness." "Is the money not enough?" Ruyan took a sip of coffee, then coughed lightly twice. "Looks like I caught a chill last night. Actually, there is no need for you to be so hostile toward me. Your husband and I are only in a boss and subordinate relationship, nothing more. What you heard in the office last time was purely a misunderstanding. And even if we take a step back, your boss already has a wife as beautiful as you. How could he possibly be interested in me? If there is nothing else, I will excuse myself first." Chen left calmly, though her heart was pounding. It was the first time she had felt the pressure brought by the legal wife. Just from hearing a joke, she came to pressure me with all kinds of generous conditions. That possessiveness was far too strong. And Chen was guilty to boot, since she really did like me. Back in the cafe, Ruyan let out a soft sigh. It looked like the other woman had at least some feelings for her husband. Otherwise, how could an assistant not be tempted by conditions like that? I should head home first. I missed her. That night, deep in the stillness of darkness, I had the habit of working out, so I slept pretty deeply. The door to the room opened again. A beautiful, slender figure appeared. It was Ruyan again, coming to embrace me. I did not resist. A sleeping person cannot refuse. She gently stroked her husband's face with eyes full of tenderness. Her gaze was brimming with love. Ruyan leaned in contentedly, until their noses were almost touching. A tender kiss fell. It was as if time had turned back, returning them to their sweetest days. Ruyan and I shared the same bed. She slept lightly, and often woke before I did. After waking, she could not resist sneaking a kiss on my sleeping face. Then she would study my sleeping face closely, never seeming to get enough. She hoped that when I woke up, the first thing I would see would be her loving gaze. If her husband caught her sneaking a kiss, she would not escape punishment. Thinking about it now, those days were truly sweet. She wanted to hold me tighter, but she was afraid of waking me. That distance, both near and far, made my heart race. "Husband, love me one more time, okay? If you do not speak, I will take that as your agreement," Ruyan murmured, comforting herself with this self-deceiving little lie. A trace of pain rose in my heart. She did not dare imagine the sight of me with another woman after the divorce. She had once loved me so deeply, and then become someone else's wife. All the beauty from the past had turned to ashes and vanished. It was as if none of it had ever happened. My heart twisted in pain. Life's greatest surprise is a false alarm that ends with something lost being found again. The most heartbreaking thing of all is handing over the happiness that was once yours with your own hands. I regretted it beyond measure. It was late at night. I was exhausted. My lover was right beside me. Ruyan fell asleep without realizing it. This time, she did not dream again of me lying in a river of blood. Instead, she dreamed that she was trapped in roaring flames, in unbearable agony. By morning, when I woke up, I found a beauty lying in my arms. She was beautiful, no question, but her eyes were hazy, and her body was slick with fragrant sweat, and I felt a little rattled. The seasons were changing, and the flu was going around. Ruyan had started coughing yesterday. She had not taken it seriously. During the day, she was busy with work, and at night she still had to figure out how to win her husband back. She was exhausted, body and soul. In the end, she came down with a fever today. I was worried sick. She clung to me tightly, refusing to let go. Even through her clothes, I could feel the heat of her slim body. Her gorgeous face was flushed with an unhealthy red. A dark undercurrent stirred in me. I reached out to touch her pale, jade-like forehead. It was burning hot. "Wake up?" Ruyan opened her eyes. Her gaze shimmered softly, and the corners of her eyes were red. Husband, I feel awful. Ruyan, sick as she was as fragile as a flower on the verge of withering. There was no trace left of her usual ice queen goddess image. After so many years of marriage, I had long since seen the side of her, and it left me with no ripples at all. I sighed. With a fever, of course you feel awful. Get up, I will take you to the hospital. Ruyan's last shred of reason sighed to herself. Bad luck. The plan had not even started, and she had already fallen ill. At this point, in her husband's eyes, wouldn't she just be a burden? He must be even less moved by her now. The intense discomfort brought on by the fever made her cling to my embrace. No need to go to the hospital. Call the private doctor. The number is in my phone. I took the phone from the nightstand and tried entering the password. It was still the last 6 digits of our wedding date. I opened the contacts and made the call. After asking about her symptoms, the doctor respectfully said she would arrive soon. Drink some water first. I helped my wife sit up in bed and gave her water. The parts I touched were soft and hot. Husband, I am cold. Ruyan wanted even more attention. When I heard that, I only helped her lie back down and tucked the blanket around her. Not long after, a professional, capable female doctor arrived with a medical kit and other supplies. After the examination and temperature check were finished, she prescribed medicine and told me, as her husband, that Ruyan's fever was caused by the flu and that she needed plenty of rest. Feeling sleepy after taking the medicine was normal. After going over the precautions, the doctor took her leave. I stood up, ready to see her out. After she had been gone for a while, I returned to the bed. Ruyan had thought I would go straight to the company to work and leave her alone. Being sick left Ruyan exhausted, body and soul. She was restless and uneasy. She was suspicious of everything. At this moment, she was no longer the frost-cold female CEO of the company. She was just a feverish, miserable woman who only wanted to lean into her husband's arms. I returned to the master bedroom. What are you doing? I saw Ruyan lift the blanket, preparing to get out of bed and lie down properly. My tone was firm, leaving no room for argument. I showed her no tenderness at all. My wife wanted me not to go to work today and stay home with her. Her pitiful, delicate look made my heart melt. The female CEO, who was usually as cold as ice, now looked like a child who needed to be cherished. Her eyes were full of pleading, as if I were her whole world. How could I bear to refuse? I realized she had truly gone mad. It was the weekend, and she still wanted to rest. It was baffling. Husband, let's not get divorced, okay? After Ruyan lay back down, I threw the empty medicine wrapper into the trash. A wave of irritation rose in me. In the end, I did not answer her. The year we got married, Ruyan had also run a fever once. Back then, she had nestled in my arms, murmuring that we would stay together forever and love me forever. My heart softened with hers. But after the results came out, my wife became a completely different person. She turned as cold as an ice mountain that would not melt. And my heart turned cold too. So, I was immune to anything she said now. Not a single word. The medicine gradually took effect. Ruyan only felt unbearably exhausted. Her eyelids were so heavy they were about to close. She forced herself to stay awake, hoping for her husband to respond. But she never got one. Dazed and half asleep, she drifted into a deep sleep. She had no idea how long she had slept. Ruyan was soaked in sweat. When she woke, the sweating had already stopped. The last glow of sunset spilled across the window. It should have been a beautiful sight, but Ruyan only felt even more alone. She sat up and looked around. My figure was nowhere to be seen. She was the only one left in the master bedroom. Husband, she called out tentatively. No one answered. It felt as if the whole world had abandoned her. Luckily, a moment later, footsteps sounded, growing closer from afar. A tall figure appeared in the doorway. Ruyan's heart settled with it. Without saying much, I touched her forehead. It was not hot, so I brought her a bowl of meat congee. I made sure the patient finished the routine of eating porridge and taking her medicine. Ruyan did not dare hope her husband would be like before and feed her himself, making her obediently eat the porridge and take her medicine. As usual, I cleaned up the medicine wrappers, took the bowl, and left. The room fell silent again. When I came out of the bathroom attached to the side bedroom after a shower, I found that Ruyan had actually followed me into the master bedroom. She was wrapped in the blanket, leaning against the headboard. That shattered kind of beauty made my chest ache. I was afraid I would neglect her tonight. Even on the nights before she got sick, she could not resist missing her husband. Needless to say, after getting sick, she needed comfort even more. Husband, the doctor said the fever might come back tonight. Can we sleep together tonight? I did not argue with the sick person and used a towel to dry my hair. Seeing that her husband did not deny it, Ruyan finally relaxed. The knot in her chest finally loosened. The phone rang suddenly. The phone suddenly rang, breaking the quiet of the room. At that moment, she was lazily soaking in the hot spring at her own resort. Her dark hair was pinned up high, carrying a commanding air of luxury, and effortlessly elegant. The mist mingled with the water's surface, blurring the view, and adding even more mystery to her allure. Her gaze drifted softly, every gesture radiating a breathtaking beauty. My heartbeat quickened. In a sense, she could stir a man's heart more easily than Ruyan ever could. Ruyan's distant, icy aura only made people hesitate and step back. They would feel inferior before her. But her, all it took was one seductive glance, and she could haunt a person's dreams. She could make anyone lose their head. Ruyan had come for an inspection and took the chance to give herself a vacation. Lying around in the hot spring with nothing to do, she called Ruyan. Ruyan, the hot spring here is pretty good. Too bad you did not come. How are you handling your relationship problem? She thought to herself. That girl, Ruyan, I wonder how she is doing now. I hope she can sort out her relationship trouble smoothly. A heart-racing voice came through the phone, mixed with the sound of water. A vividly rousing image flashed through my mind at once. Seeing me staring at the laptop, Ruyan said softly, there has been some unexpected progress. Why does your voice sound so gentle? Ruyan was silent for a moment. All the signs pointed to it. What the friend meant was that by chance, there had been some progress, meaning she had been cared for after getting sick. No wonder she was speaking so cautiously. Her lover was probably right beside her, so she could not say too much. Then rest well. I'll come back and see you when I return. I thought to myself, she must be being carefully looked after by her lover, which was why she sounded so relaxed. Ruyan hung up the phone, feeling a surge of emotion. Seeing her friend's happiness, she sincerely felt relieved. Ruyan asked one of her assistants, when she and her husband had a conflict, how they usually resolved it. The assistant suggested I buy a few sexy sleep dresses. She wanted to teach this trick to Ruyan, but someone as cool and aloof as Ruyan probably would not bother to, or even think of using that kind of method. She thought that this trick might be too crude for Ruyan. Maybe it was too lowbrow for her. Things between a husband and wife, at most, count as a little spice. How could that be considered vulgar? If this could win her heart back, then she'd have hit the jackpot. Was she supposed to wait until she cried herself dry, and only regret it after everything was beyond saving? A quiet thrill rose in me. Maybe this really was a good idea. The pain of losing the one you love most, I knew all too well. I did not want Ruyan to end up like me. Chen lay quietly in the hot spring pool, a little lost in thought. Those precious memories flashed through her mind one by one. After all these years, they were still vivid. Chen suddenly remembered how, back then, after she and the other person had fought, if she leaned close and spoke soft, yielding words by her ear, her ears would turn red. At that innocent age, even a little close contact was enough to remember for a lifetime. She was so easy to coax. Chen, you just abandoned her like that. She must hate you. In this lifetime, I probably have no fate with happiness. The beauty in the hot spring looked at her reflection in the water and let out a soft sigh. Over the years, I had wanted to find her countless times, but I was afraid of seeing the resentment in her eyes. I could not forgive myself either. That sigh, carrying endless sorrow, dissolved into the wind. I closed the laptop. I noticed the person in bed answering the phone very cautiously, as if what was said on the call could not be heard by me, as if she did not want me to hear a word of it. I did not think much of it. Ever since we started sleeping in separate rooms, we had never looked at each other's phones again. I understood long ago that you cannot keep someone who wants to leave. Seeing her husband look over, Ruyan quickly explained, fearing he might misunderstand. It was a call from a good friend, inviting me to the resort she owns. She added that her friend was a woman. I did not dwell on it. I turned off the lights and got into bed. Sometimes things just go wrong by accident. Ask one more question, and you might get a completely different answer. The dim room was utterly silent. After sleeping in separate rooms, I had gotten used to sleeping alone, sleeping with my back to Ruyan. No matter how you looked at it, that did not look like a married couple. The bed in the guest room was not as big as the master bedroom's marital bed. It fit two people snugly with no extra room to spare. Husband, Mom called yesterday to push us to have a child. Ruyan hugged her husband from behind, feeling safe against my broad back. The closer she got, the more she regretted deciding to sleep separately in the first place. There had been many nights when she missed me, but she could not put aside her pride to win him back. Over time, the damage piled up until it became a complete collapse, and their feelings fell apart with it. So many nights had been wasted. She could have had a warm embrace, but instead chose loneliness and solitude. Nothing hurts more than regret you brought on yourself. I do not want to talk about this anymore. There is no need to talk about it again. When I once wanted a child, I coaxed and pleaded in every way I could, but she refused. A person's patience and energy are limited. Once it's spent, it's gone. Things are different now. Now, I almost feel lucky I do not have children yet, so I can come and go freely, without being tied down. Ruyan knew she had hurt the person beside her too deeply. She took in the resentment coming off her husband. She kept telling herself that once she recovered, she would start trying to conceive. By then, husband, if you want to, I will have two. One boy and one girl. Just enough to make a perfect family. Ruyan held her husband tightly, her heart fluttering. Unfortunately, her body was far too weak. Though the fever had broken, she still felt weak all over, soft and weak. We had not been intimate in a long time. Her gentle call was soaked in tenderness. It was hard to imagine that coming from Ruyan, that ice-cold beauty. I closed my eyes and went to sleep, ignoring her soft murmurs. My wife's delicate hands were wonderfully nimble, sliding restlessly over my clothes, bringing an indescribable heat with them. A hidden tide surged through me. Since you're better now, go back to the master bedroom. I turned around and took hold of Ruyan's snow-white wrist. A husband and wife are supposed to share a bed. I do not want to go back, and I cannot leave you either. You were the one who suggested we sleep in separate rooms in the first place. Now you're saying it like you were in the right. I was overcome with regret. My hot breath brushed Ruyan's delicate earlobe, sending a shiver through her. Husband, if you feel uncomfortable, I can help you. After being reborn, Ruyan was desperate to fulfill her duties as a wife. I refused without the slightest hesitation. Ruyan felt a lump of heaviness in her chest, an indescribable sense of loss. But she understood that insisting on sleeping separately back then had also been hurting her husband's pride. It's okay. Once I'm better, I'll be more proactive. In the room, I said nothing. The room fell silent. Ruyan was unwell, and soon fell asleep, with the one she loved beside her. She slept especially soundly. Half an hour later, my breathing gradually steadied, and then I fell into a deep sleep. At 3 a.m, in the dead of night, her fever flared up again. Ruyan muttered in a daze. I woke at once. I felt the heat of her feverish body behind me. I snapped my head around and looked by the light of the night lamp. Ruyan's brows were tightly whereupon. Her face was flushed. Fine beads of sweat had broken out on her forehead, and she looked painfully uncomfortable. I sprang out of bed at once, turned on the light, and gave her the medicine. I checked Ruyan's forehead again. It was burning hot. I hurried off in a panic to get her a wet towel. Before I could even get up, she was already hugging me. She murmured, Husband, don't go anywhere. Just stay by my side. I do not want to lose you again. Her slurred words made me sense a faint unease. I had no time to dig into what a feverish person was saying. Ruyan would not let go. It was as if she were holding on to her entire world. I looked down at Ruyan in my arms. This clingy side of her felt like the Ruyan from long ago. Maybe once she got better, she'd go back to how she used to be. Husband, she called out in broken whispers. Finally, after an hour, the fever broke. I let out a breath of relief. I slowly pulled the blanket up over Ruyan. I kept pressing my hand to her snow-white forehead again and again. Only after I had checked several times and confirmed her temperature was down did I relax. Yet for once, I could not fall back asleep. I opened my phone and saw a moment's post from my buddy. It was packed with photos, all of a cute little girl, soft, round, and utterly adorable. People my age already had complete family lives and successful careers. As for me, I was stuck in the middle. While my marriage was a complete mess, sometimes I wonder what my life would have been like if I had never met Ruyan. What kind of life would I have had, with my first windfall in hand? If I had stayed on the team, my achievements by now would have been extraordinary. Maybe I would have met a gentle, capable woman, and maybe I would have had a cute daughter like my buddy. Ruyan woke first in the morning. Somehow, I had rolled over and ended up facing her. So the first thing she saw was her husband's face. A sense of happiness welled up in her heart. Even the feverish haze had eased quite a bit. She wanted to reach out and touch him, but she was afraid of waking the man she loved. What happened last night? Ruyan remembered only the rough outline. What stayed with her most was the feeling of resting in her husband's arms. The more she thought about it, the more Ruyan felt how wrong she had been before. Between husband and wife, they were meant to be the closest people to each other in this world. They should support each other, without ranking themselves above or below each other, without drawing a line between yours and mine. Because parents cannot stay with their children forever, and for the rest of your life. Only the person by your side will truly know your warmth and cold. I woke up at 9 as well. Good morning. Ruyan's voice was gentle and tender. I did not answer. I simply reached out and felt her forehead. It was fine. After washing up, I brought over breakfast. An easy-to-eat, nutritious bowl of meat porridge. Ruyan understood that her husband's care was for her as a patient, not for her as his wife. After breakfast and her medicine, she asked me to bring her laptop from the desk. There were some things she had to handle. In the afternoon, she got a call from her younger brother, Fengnian. Sis, Mom and Dad said they miss you. Are you coming home for dinner tonight? Ruyan and her family both lived in the same city. Every weekend, she went home for dinner. But today she was feeling unwell. So, she was not going back. Fengnian asked, what happened? I had a fever. Has the fever gone down now? Mrs. Zhu took the phone. Ruyan talked with her for a long time before hanging up. Mrs. Zhu was still worried. She insisted that her son go check on his sister. Half an hour later, the driver dropped Fengnian off at their home. I was telling the nanny to prepare dinner when the doorbell suddenly rang. I opened the door, and to my surprise, it was my younger brother-in-law. This was completely unexpected. If I was steady and hard to read, Fengnian was the type who looked ready to clash with anyone. Yet he still looked full of swagger. Where is my sister? Ever since the Su family rose to power, the Su family had all turned their backs on people. It was as if they had forgotten every favor from the past. Or rather, the favor was so great, until it curdled into hatred. They refused to acknowledge the down-and-out version of themselves from the past, and they looked down on who I had become. Upstairs. She had a fever yesterday. Fengnian went straight upstairs. When he saw her lying on the bed, her face was deathly pale, and she looked much worse than before. He strode over. Younger brother, what are you doing here? Mom asked me to check on you. Sis, are you feeling any better? Should we take you back to the hospital? No need. The fever has already gone down. Fengnian looked at his weak, pale sister, and the worry in his heart had nowhere to go. He was used to being above everyone else, and even used a questioning tone with me. This is how you take care of my sister. My expression turned cold at once. Fine. You're really putting on airs in my own home. What an ungrateful bastard. The atmosphere in the bedroom instantly dropped to freezing. It was on the verge of exploding. The world is vast, and nothing is more bizarre than people. Some repay a drop of kindness with a fountain of gratitude. Others turn gratitude into hatred and go cold without warning. I have a good heart, but a bad fate. I ran into the second kind. Normally, if there is a problem with the wife's family, it should be the wife who steps in to smooth things over. But I did not expect Ruyan to stand on my side. And I was not planning to give him any face either. Fengnian, you've really grown some guts. You don't even know the first thing about manners. You come into someone's house and don't even greet them. You can't even call me brother-in-law. You used to say it so smoothly. You show up just to question people. Anyone who did not know better might think I was the live-in son-in-law of your Su family. That you'd be qualified to point fingers at me. You're not even close. Even Mom might not dare talk to me like this. My tone was icy. They say a father's killer cannot share the same sky. Then what about the debt of saving a mother? Even repaying it with a lifetime of work would not be enough. Fengnian had all the bluster, but not a single word to say. If it were before, I'd have given him some face for Ruyan's sake. But now it had come to this. I was ready to flip the table. What do you want to say? Which word did I get wrong? Now that you've got the upper hand, you've forgotten how eager you used to be. I stepped closer and questioned him without mercy. Fengnian was choking on his anger. Speechless, he thought to himself. This makes no sense at all. Then he turned to Ruyan and said, Sis, if he cannot take good care of you, let's go home. You do not need to suffer here. Wait. Fengnian heard my voice and snorted coldly to himself. Panicking now, are you? He did not even bother to look at what kind of mess I was in now. Did I even deserve my sister? In this marriage, where the woman was strong and the man was weak, She had already decided I was the lowly one, but I have never lacked backbone. I looked at Ruyan leaning against the headboard and said, "Before you go, sign your name on the divorce agreement. Once you are better, pick a time and go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get the divorce certificate." Fengnian thought he had heard wrong. She was already married. She knew exactly what those two words, divorce, meant. What a useless loser. When anger took over, he could say anything. Divorce? She thinks she has the right to say that. She really does not know her place. Just wait. She cares so much about saving face now. And when she goes to my sister's place begging, she'll be just as miserable. Fengnian thought contemptuously that I had no idea how to control my temper. What he did not know was that I was perfectly calm. I knew exactly what I was doing. When Ruyan heard that, her heart sank. She had finally come down with a fever, which had kept her husband from bringing this up for the moment. And now things were heading straight for the worst possible outcome. The two men in the room were at daggers drawn. One was her husband, the other her own blood brother. But she had to take a side. "Sis, let's go home. Mom and Dad are worried about you too." There was smugness in Fengnian's voice. The weights on the scale kept piling on. "Fengnian, when people run into trouble, most of them side with family over reason. But you are both my family. It is time to talk sense. Your brother-in-law has taken very good care of me. He has brought me porridge and water. And when my fever came back last night, she got up before dawn to look after me. I know you care about me, but you should not take it out on your brother-in-law for no reason. She's right. He is not some live-in son-in-law. You need to respect him. If you still do not understand, then I will put it another way. You have your own family now. Do you really want me to interfere in your little family? Do you want me to use a condescending tone to interrogate your younger sister-in-law?" Fengnian's smug satisfaction and his fantasy of me calming down, realizing I had made a stupid decision, then coming to his door and begging shattered to pieces. What is going on? My sister's attitude changed so suddenly. "Sis, why are you talking to her like that? We are the real family." "Fengnian, do you think I am siding with outsiders?" "Fine. Right now I could call your younger sister-in-law and tear into her for no reason, and we would be the ones fighting." Fengnian's momentum collapsed to rock bottom. His wife is pregnant right now, and she cannot handle even the slightest anger. Who would he help? The answer was obvious. Ruyan coughed lightly twice, and her tone softened. "You really were in the wrong this time. Apologize to your brother-in-law right now." Fengnian had lived in comfort for years, and only ever humbled himself in front of my aunt. Face mattered more to him than anything, especially when he saw how indifferent I looked. He was fuming inside. For me to bow to her? Who does she think she is? He barely makes any money all year round. I really did not care whether Ruyan stayed or left. She left after saying, "Take care of yourself." The situation was already difficult. That was all she said before she left. She left very quickly, without even glancing at me. She was still wearing a sullen face when she left, and anyone who did not know better would think I owed her a life-saving debt. I felt a wave of helplessness. Fengnian returned home, just in time for the family dinner. Both parents were there. His mother asked, "Has your sister's fever broken? How is she doing now?" Fengnian recounted everything in detail. He put special emphasis on my wanting a divorce, and on how Ruyan had stepped in to defend me. I was almost ready to lash Su Qingyu with a whip, and then Su Qingyu was miserable beyond words, yet still begged for me. They had long consoled themselves that their debt to me had already been repaid when they married off their daughter. But now it seemed the debt of gratitude owed to me had only grown heavier. It makes me furious. She actually wants a divorce? Does she really think my daughter is unwanted? Wang Yun thought angrily. Do not work yourself up. She was only saying it. How could he really bear to divorce my sister? This is just a way of playing hard to get. He is just relying on the fact that my sister likes him. When Xiaoyu gets better, I need to have a proper talk with her. 90% of Wang Yun's anger was aimed at me, and the other 10% was resentment at her daughter's thoughtlessness. How can I possibly compare with their son? Once Fengnian left the bedroom, only Ruyan and I were left. I said nothing. I turned and left. Ruyan worried I was going to get the divorce agreement, and despite the pain of her illness, she immediately got out of bed. Seeing her husband about to walk out, Ruyan hugged him from behind. "Husband, don't be angry. I'll make Fengnian apologize to you. You can hit me or scold me, whatever you want. Please don't divorce me." A wave of bitterness hit me, but I could also feel Ruyan's sincerity. "Let go." A dry, flat voice with no hint of emotion came from me. Behind me, Ruyan could not see my expression, and panic set in. All her words lost their force. I will call Fengnian and have him apologize to you right away. Feeling the hold loosen behind me, I walked straight out of the bedroom. I heard them talking on the phone behind me. I did not care. The neat, spotless study did not even have an ashtray in it. People. Sometimes not having any bad habits is not necessarily a good thing. About half an hour later, a half-hearted apology text landed on my phone. Every word in it felt so sloppy. I glanced at it and dismissed it. I turned my gaze to the pale clouds drifting beyond the window. Back in the master bedroom, Ruyan ended the call. But her husband still had not come back. She was frantic. She knew her illness had not fully healed yet. At the very least, her husband would not force her to sign right now, or drag the matter to court. But what about after she got better? How many more days could a fever protect her? The more she thought, the more terrified she became. With no confidence left at all, pushed to the edge, Ruyan actually came up with the crazy idea of making this illness last a little longer. In this world, there was something even crueler than a fever. Losing something again after getting it back. It was as if she had sunk into the depths of hell. Her heart was in knots. With no one else to turn to, she could only call Ruyan and pour out this clash between family members. To her, Ruyan stayed silent for a long time on the other end of the line. Ruining. Marriage means building a new family with the person you love. If you do not put that new family first, then its collapse is only a matter of time. Even in inheritance cases, a spouse's priority is higher than a sibling's. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. Since you can only choose one, choose the thing you want most. Don't hesitate. As Ruyan reached that point, the allure in her voice was suddenly tinged with sorrow, as if she had gone from an outsider to someone involved. She was an only child, but the choice she faced back then was even crueler than Ruyan's now, and far harder to make. Let's not talk about that. I'm bored being alone at the resort. I'll be back tomorrow. Are you feeling any better? Send me the address. I'll come by and see you. Okay. She hung up. With a little time left before dinner, she quietly slipped into the adjoining bathroom and took a shower. Generally speaking, when you have a fever and are sweating all over, changing clothes is about the most you should do. You should not take a shower. When it was time for dinner, I finally showed up. I was still there to make sure she drank her porridge and took her medicine. But when I saw the pajamas Ruyan was wearing, I frowned. You took a shower. The usually ice-cold Ruyan did not even dare meet her husband's stern gaze. She was covered in sweat, sticky, and clammy. I did not think Ruyan was deliberately keeping her fever from breaking. Was capable of deliberately keeping her fever from breaking just to keep me here. How is that any different from those unstable obsessives who slash their wrist after a breakup? What's the difference? Too crazy. If we had just gotten married, I might have considered it possible. But now, you shouldn't shower right after a fever breaks. Call right after dinner, and have your private doctor come by again. The scene in the bedroom suddenly became a lonely beauty leaning against the bed, looking obedient and meek, not daring to object to her husband's words. Before dark, that capable female doctor came by again. She prescribed some medicine based on the situation, gave her instructions, and left. Ruyan looked at the medicine, and her beautiful eyes dimmed. It was not because of the bitter taste. Nothing was bitterer than losing the man she loved. After taking the medicine, she would not be suited to try for a baby for a while. But in the current situation, only pregnancy could keep her husband through duty. Night fell. After my shower, I was busy at the laptop. Ruyan watched quietly, enjoying the feeling of being welcomed back into her husband's life. She said nothing, just quietly savored it. So nice. She picked up the thermos on the nightstand and poured her husband a cup of warm water. You shouldn't drink tea at night, or you'll be unable to sleep, she thought, and a trace of tenderness rose in her heart. After handing him the drink, I discovered my husband was only watching the news, not working. Her slender fingers rested lightly on my shoulders, wanting to massage me. I was lying on the bed, my thoughts still fixed on the computer screen, and so I rejected my wife's advance. Ruyan froze, then obediently backed off. She looked at the pretty wallpaper on her husband's computer, and for the first time, began to doubt her own charm. Thinking back to last night, after she had taken the initiative to tease him. Though her husband had restrained himself, his breathing had still been fast and hot, and that was the only thing that eased her mind a little. The computer systems automatically recommended pretty girl wallpaper. It was late at night. I had just gotten into bed when a warm, soft body pressed against me, carrying a unique, clean fragrance. I was secretly pleased. My husband has friends coming over tomorrow. Do whatever you want. Maybe. A wallpaper of a fashion model, pushed at random by the system, stirred Zhu Runin's need to win him back. She stood up with a soft laugh, then bent down and kissed the side of my face gently. I had just closed my eyes, ready to get some proper sleep. Last night had been exhausting. I got up several times in the middle of the night, and did not fall asleep until dawn was nearly here. A moment later, the softness at my fingertips and the tingling brush of her hair against my earlobe made my heart jolt. What on earth was going on? Under the night light, Zhu Runin smiled radiantly. Beautiful as a dream, she said softly. I haven't seen my dear husband in so long. I couldn't help kissing you. Had Zhu Runin gone mad from the fever? Could she really say something like that now, with that ice-cold expression? Back when we were newlyweds, I never saw her this passionate. A chill ran through me. Zhu Runin thought her husband would answer coldly, but instead he turned and touched her forehead. No fever. That simple gesture still hurt her. I frowned. Get some sleep. She withdrew her hand, and no longer paid me any attention. Before I could even turn over, Zhu Runin was already leaning against my chest. Her beautiful hands, as exquisite as works of art, moved over my body through my clothes, exploring. After so many years as husband and wife, how could they possibly not understand each other at all? And just like that, she kissed her husband's lips. In the dim room, the intimate tension was making me restless and flush. This heat did not come from illness, but from another kind of heat, one that made the heart race. I was irritated. Zhu Fengnian had pissed me off badly today. I just felt stifled. What was the point of taking it out on a patient? But this patient seemed to have no sense at all. She kept pushing her luck. She was really pushing her luck. He snatched his wife's warm hand back like lightning, rolled over, and pinned her down. With one hand he caught her slender wrist, lifted them above her head, and pressed them into the soft pillow. Their eyes met. I looked at Zhu Runin's alluring figure, her delicate curves rising and falling with every breath. A blush colored her stunning face. She was breathtakingly beautiful. Her eyes held 70% anticipation and 30% nervousness. She did not know whether her body could handle it, but she was willing, as long as I wanted it. She had owed me far too much for far too long. As a wife, she had truly failed. Zhu Runin's mind raced with 100 tangled thoughts. She slowly closed those tender, water-soft eyes, posing herself in an alluring way, as if offering herself for his choosing. The storm she had been expecting never came. If you keep making trouble, go sleep in the master bedroom. Then whether you run a fever or get sick, I can't be bothered to care. With that command, Zhu Runin felt that fiercely possessive, scorching heat pulling away from her. Only a red mark remained on her wrist, proof of the madness from moments ago. Endless disappointment swallowed her whole. Only then did she understand that her husband had pinned her down not out of desire, but out of anger. Husband, are you still angry about what happened today? Don't be angry anymore. It's bad for your health. Another day, I'll have Fengnian apologize to you in person. Zhu Runin hugged him from behind, feeling the hot body and ragged breathing of the man beside her. She was secretly pleased with herself. It seemed her charm was still intact. She whispered in my ear, Husband, can we not get divorced? Starting today, I will work hard to become the perfect wife in your heart. Obedient, thoughtful, and understanding. Anything you ask for, except divorce, I will agree to. Even if you make me work myself to the bone, I will do it willingly. She looked at me, her feelings in complete turmoil. A trace of guilt rose in her heart. I owe you all of this. If you do not believe me, I will transfer everything under my name to you tomorrow. That should be enough to show I mean it. Husband, give me one chance, okay? For the sake of all these years we have shared, and for the marriage that has lasted until now. I said nothing, pretending to be asleep. I know, you won't agree because the hurt and grievances from these past years are still there. It's all right. I will prove it with my actions. Good night. Zhu Runin wanted to give me a goodnight kiss, but she had just been warned minutes ago, so that thought could only stay hidden in her heart. She had already kissed him today anyway. He savored that long-lost kiss, and before he knew it, he had drifted off to sleep. In the dream, he and I went back to when we had just gotten married. Every day, we were inseparable, loving and devoted. I pulled him into my arms and kissed his flawless side profile. Wife, shouldn't we have a child? The moment he said that, Zhu Runin instantly realized it was a dream. She wanted to sink into it, but it was already too late. The dream began to crumble apart. When she woke, what came into view was the ceiling of the room. Zhu Ruining quickly looked toward the spot beside her. It was already empty. Her husband was already up. He seemed to have finished washing up. He was getting dressed. I still did not sleep well last night, because no one knew whether Zhu Ruining would spike a fever again in the middle of the night, like she had the night before, especially after taking a shower. Fortunately, last night passed peacefully. Zhu Ruining threw off the blanket and got out of bed. Husband, let me help you. I was putting on my shirt and adjusting my cufflinks, and Zhu Ruining had already picked out my coat and tie for me. She meant what she said and followed through. She was transforming from that frosty female CEO into an obedient, thoughtful wife. Her deft hands quickly helped her husband tie his tie and smooth his collar. I did not have time to nitpick over that. There was a problem with the supplier. Zhu Ruining was also almost fully recovered. I needed to go there in person. Meanwhile, at the airport, a private jet was slowly coming in for a landing. The luxury car waiting to receive her was already prepared. A glamorous, high-born woman stepped out. Her female assistant opened the car door for her. She got in and disappeared from everyone's view. The nanny felt relieved to see the couple come down together for breakfast. She felt very reassured. First, she was happy to see signs that their relationship was warming up again. Second, her job was safe. If the couple kept fighting like this, the nanny worried they might divorce in a fit of anger. Then this high-paying job of hers would be in jeopardy. Zhu Ruining took the nanny's place. She personally served her husband a bowl of millet porridge. Morning sunlight spilled across the table. The aroma of the porridge drifted through the air. It was the warmth that belonged only to home. A wave of warmth surged through my heart. I simply ignored him. Zhu Ruining thought to herself, eating breakfast with her husband like this, calmly and peacefully, was also a kind of happiness. Only after experiencing life and death apart could one truly appreciate how precious this happiness was. Good moments were always brief. The ringtone broke the silence. It was a call from Wang Yun. How is Zhao Ning feeling now? I was eating porridge, and when I heard their conversation, the spoon in my hand froze. Zhu Fengnian's apology text suddenly flashed through my mind. I had a vague feeling that this call from Wang Yun was probably not just about asking whether her daughter had recovered. Wang Yun. In my mind, I saw the figure of a lady lying in a hospital bed. When we had just gotten married, he treated me incredibly well. He was always called a good son-in-law. He even swore up and down that if Xiao Yu ever acted unreasonably, I should just go back and ask him to judge fairly. At the time, I really felt like I had struck gold. I lived comfortably and at ease in the Zhu family. I did not have to worry about anything. I was treated like a cherished son-in-law, and I felt pretty pleased with myself. The rise of the Zhu family's power changed everything. This time, his precious son was forced to apologize, and he actually held himself back. I was 100% sure he was sitting on a powder keg of rage, just suppressing it for the moment. Human hearts were truly impossible to read. By the time I finished the porridge, I wondered how this bowl of porridge had disappeared so fast. Zhu Ruining put down her phone and served her husband another bowl of millet porridge. Where did Zhao Ning go just now? I served Gu Chen a bowl of porridge. Mom, please continue. Zhu Ruining was also thinking about her parents. A friend is coming today. I will go back and see them tomorrow. On the other end of the line, Wang Yun heard that her daughter was personally serving me porridge, and a nameless fury flared in her chest. Didn't they hire a nanny? Even if nothing else, they were adults. They could not even serve themselves a bowl of porridge for something so small. Were their hands broken? Or their legs? In their family's eyes, I had long since been seen as nothing more than a kept man. If I was unworthy, then I was unworthy. Now they even had the nerve to let their daughter serve him porridge herself. Did he really think he was the emperor? No wonder their daughter kept coming home to stay. So this was how much she was suffering. Then divorce would be fine. The family had money anyway. At worst, they could just find a live-in son-in-law. Once Zhao Ning has recovered, come home for a visit. Mom has something to discuss with you. After the call between mother and daughter ended, I had already almost finished eating. Zhu Ruining was also mostly recovered. There were still matters at the company waiting for me to handle. A luxury car drove over. Whether it was the badge or the interior, everything made its status obvious. But all of that merely served as a backdrop for the noble woman inside the car. Ruyan called Zhu Ruining to sound her out, just to test the waters. But Zhu Ruining quickly replied by text. Ruyan had one question. What kind of man could make the frosty Zhu Ruining be so obsessed with him, with every word revealing an unwavering certainty that it had to be him? The car drove straight into the villa district. Zhu Ruining had already given them a heads up. After breakfast, I am going to the company. In the short distance from the living room to the door, Zhu Ruining looped her arm through her husband's and asked softly, "What do you want for lunch? I can bring it to you." She looked like a gentle, capable wife. There was not a trace of her usual cool aloofness left. "You should just stay home and behave. What if you catch a chill again? I would still have to take care of you." Instead of appreciating it, he immediately pushed back. Zhu Ruining did not take it to heart. Isn't that also a kind of concern? While they were talking, at the front gate, a black luxury sedan appeared. Zhu Ruining had said last night that a friend would be coming by today. I had not taken it to heart. Zhu Ruining's friend, in my eyes, was just a stranger. I never would have guessed that the visitor really was a stranger. Just the most familiar stranger of all. The car door opened. A graceful, noble figure came into view. Her flowing skirt swayed as Liu Ruyan stepped out of the car. But when she looked ahead, time seemed to stop, then run backward. Countless precious memories rose into the air like the grand fireworks show they had watched together one last time, then burst into the brightest blaze of light, making the pitch-black night sky look stunning. Back then, I had imagined countless ways of seeing Liu Ruyan again, but they had all been for nothing. I had given up hope. Many years later, fate brought the person I had waited for so desperately all those years ago, right before me in the most casual way. The two people who once could have been described with 1,000 beautiful words now stood facing each other like strangers. "Husband, this is a very good friend of mine, Liu Ruyan. This is my husband, Chen." Zhu Ruining introduced the two strangers to each other. For Liu Ruyan, the punishment she had avoided for so long had finally arrived, and it was even more painful than she had imagined. She had been forced to abandon the person who had stayed by her side for years, and then one day, she saw him become another woman's husband, and his wife was the one who personally introduced him to her. Liu Ruyan's heart went numb from the pain. She was filled with unbearable regret. I nodded absent-mindedly. "You to talk. I still have some company matters to handle. You'll be going now." I strode toward the garage. I brushed past Liu Ruyan and went to get my car. The engine roared. The red brake lights flashed a few times, then vanished from their sight. Zhu Ruining called out twice, "Ruyan," and Liu Ruyan finally snapped back to reality. From the shifting light in Liu Ruyan's beautiful eyes, I could make out many complicated emotions in her, though some of them I did not understand. "You are the same." I hadn't kept in touch with my old classmates for a long time. He probably already forgot I even existed. The hardest lies to spot are the ones mixed with a little truth. The fact that we were classmates was true, and it was also true that I had forgotten him. As for whether that was a deliberate forgetting of the past, or just a simple lapse of memory, there was no way to know. I felt a little wistful. After all, we had once been so close. Zhu Ruining's instincts told her things were not that simple, but her husband had just been completely calm, as if he had really just run into a stranger. There was not a single flaw to be seen. It matched Liu Ruyan's description exactly, but inwardly, he was suffering in silence. This damned acting had actually fooled even Zhu Ruining. "Are you feeling better?" The topic was deftly changed. The two stunning women with exceptional poise went into the living room one after the other and sat gracefully on the sofa. Liu Ruyan's thoughts were in turmoil. She wanted to find out from Zhu Ruining what my life had been like over the years. "That resort I recommended to you before really is nice, but going alone would be too boring. Once you are better, the two of us can go together. We can strengthen our bond. You said you wanted to win his heart back. You didn't look like you had any conflict just now." Liu Ruyan picked up her teacup. This tea, whether it was bitter or sweet, she could not taste a thing. Her mind was not on it at all. Zhu Ruining, however, let out a soft sigh. "He is only being lenient with me because I am sick. He is not taking me to task too much. Once I am fully recovered, that leniency would soon run out. What am I supposed to do?" The deadline was approaching. Zhu Ruining was starting to panic and grasp at any solution she could find. Liu Ruyan set down her teacup and said, "You can't solve this with just a few words. I do not have a way either. Can you explain it in detail?" The water in the cup rippled gently as she listened to Zhu Ruining tell her love story. Liu Ruyan's heart was in turmoil. This story was like mental poison. It should have been her story with him, but now it had become a one-woman show. She had become an insignificant bystander. They say regaining something lost is one of life's great blessings. Then losing the love that should have been hers was probably life's greatest misfortune. Liu Ruyan knew I would become a capable man, I could still live well without her. Hearing that I had gone broke to save Ms. Su. Then hearing Zhu Ruining say with regret that he had gone to great lengths to create conflict, only wanting to control everything in this marriage, and even refusing to have a child or sleep in separate rooms. Liu Ruyan felt a mix of emotions. There was relief, but even more, she was burning with anger. How could she bear to do that to him? Looking back to those years, she had never been willing to let him suffer even the slightest grievance, even if they took a huge step back and looked at it another way. The kindness of saving a mother was greater than heaven itself. I did not ask for us to cling to each other for life or death. At the very least, we should have respected each other. We were both getting what we deserved. Zhu Ruining ending up like this today was just like me. It was self-inflicted. There was no one to blame. At the same time, Liu Ruyan was blaming herself. She had been running away all these years. If I had known she was living so badly, why would I have waited until today? My car slowed down. The traffic light ahead was red. My thoughts drifted. I had changed the course of my life for the women, but neither of those choices ended well. One was Zhu Ruining, who gave up her dream of starting a business and has stumbled along ever since. The other was her. That name felt both familiar and strange. Liu Ruyan's childhood sweetheart. They had agreed to attend the same class. But one day, the girl vanished from the boy's life, without a trace. After the big exam, the boy's results came out. He could have gone to a better university, but stubbornly stayed in the place they had agreed on. He waited and waited. The leaves on the trees turned green, then yellow, fell and grew back again. Sometimes, when the truth is right there in front of you, it is not that you do not believe it, but that you refuse to believe he is not coming back. A 30-second red light was not enough to bring back many memories. Memories of Liu Ruyan. In the days right after we parted, I dreamed of her every night. I would even call out her name in my sleep. Later, after I started college, my roommates, still awake in the middle of the night, heard me muttering. During the day, my roommates teased me and asked, "Who is this gorgeous beauty, Ruyan? You are so smitten you cannot even stop thinking about her in your sleep." But when they saw how serious I looked, they realized they had said the wrong thing. Some things should not be used as seasoning for life, especially the story buried deepest in your heart. More than 10 years of childhood sweetheart affection and the beautiful memories he left behind brought me to this university. But I never once saw him. I was such a pathetic fool. He gave me no explanation, not even a single goodbye. And yet I was still foolishly keeping our old promise. Who would care? Nobody cared. I was the biggest fool in the world. Later, I tried to break free from the past, but I still saw her in my dreams. It left me in unbearable pain. So I developed the habit of running at night. If 3 kilometers were not enough, I would run 5. Anyway, only when I was completely exhausted could I get through the night without dreaming. Gradually, she stopped appearing in my dreams. Some people say that if the bond between two people is not yet over, but they are forced apart, then the debt is repaid in dreams. If you can no longer dream of them, it means the fate between you has finally run out.